Appreciate the opportunity to appear today. Perry contacted me late yesterday afternoon, and John Stolp, who had to head back to Denver, talked to me about doing an IBCC update. Made me reflect back to last year's roundtable in Colorado Springs, and John gave the IBC update. He's a great speaker, covered it well, and the first question that came from the audience when he completed his talk is, what is the IBCC? Just maybe a show of hands, how many in the room are not familiar with what the Interbasin Compact Committee roundtable process is all about? Okay, well, let me do something quickly. This may take an extra few minutes, but, and I'm going to tie something in. How many are familiar with the State Water Supply Initiative? Okay, so there's still some, because these are two parallel processes. If you look back to 2003, 2004, the state was struggling with how we move forward as a state to meet future demands. The legislature was concerned, the governor was concerned, as have the two governors following. How are we going to meet demands out? When it started, it was 2030. Now it's 2050. Well, in 2004, the Colorado Water Conservation Board and their excellent staff under the leadership of Jennifer Gimbel took on a project to identify, from a technical standpoint, what is our supply today and what is our demand going to be in 2050. And they did it with a roundtable process, not to be confused with the current roundtable process, and reached out around the state to all basins to start to identify what our future needs are, what is the population, both for consumptive and non-consumptive needs. Non-consumptive for the environment, for recreation. And so the SWASI process started in 2004 under the Colorado Water Conservation Board. In 2005, there was Water for the 21st Century Act, House Bill 1177 passed, that created the 9 roundtables throughout the state, now over 300 people involved in that, basically all the basins plus the Denver metro area. Terry gave a good update in a short amount of time of the work that the Arkansas Basin Roundtable, it's the largest roundtable. We actually could have 50 members. Or over 50 members, and it's a cross-section, as Terry mentioned. It's whether you're from the conservation community or the development community, from counties to cities, agriculture to M&I, all have representatives on the roundtables throughout the state. They each then appoint 2 roundtable members to serve on the Interbasin Compact Committee. There's 27 members on that committee. We have 9 appointed by the governor, and the balance come from the roundtables. And the ideas ground up, develop these ideas, look at our future, determine what our needs are, first our supply today, then our needs in the future, and then identify projects and processes to meet those demands in the future. So now we've been at this since 2005, and it's really starting to dig in. The first thing we had to do, as Terry mentioned, is learn how to talk with each other, how to communicate what are our needs, whether you're a recreationalist, environmentalist, a municipality, an industry, agriculture, what are your needs, what are things that are important to you, and that's throughout the state. And so we're really at a turning point, and I might share a thought or two as we close about that. So now, focus on my assignment, Interbasin Compact Committee. The roundtables have been feeding up information to the IBCC on things that we can do as a basin throughout the state, and then they've been taking and looking and bringing that together to say, what can the state do moving forward? As from 2004 and the start of the IBCC roundtable process in 2005, we've slowly brought the SWASI and IBCC roundtable process together. We're now paralleling, bringing our information, sharing it, to have a real good plan for the future. The governor's goal is to have a plan by 2014 to 2016. There was water planning going on in the state for many, many years. It was done on an independent basis. Denver Water would create their plan. Southeast District had their plan. Board of Water Works has our plan. Aurora has their plan, Colorado Springs Utilities has theirs, Grand Junction has theirs, Ute Water has theirs, Northern Water has theirs. But to move forward, in many of those plans, I know the Board of Water Works meets our needs out in the 2050 to 2060. But as a state, we have gaps in every basin, and particularly in the greater Denver metro area. And it's going to take a lot to meet those demands there, protect interest in other basins, the Colorado Basin, our basin here in the Arkansas, so that we can all develop and meet our needs moving into the future. Out of this SWASI IBCC process, Terry touched on the four legs that we're going to look at moving forward, that being conservation, ag transfers, alternative ag, so that we cannot make ag the fallback, so that that's where all the water comes from. IPPs, identified projects and processes, and then new supply. And each have their own unique challenges, and there's lots of committees and a lot of people working on it throughout the state. Just a couple numbers to think about on a statewide basis out of this process and that 2010 report. All of this is available on the Colorado Water Conservation Board website. We have 3 staff members from the Colorado Water Conservation Board here, and they have a great booth over there, and they can tell you how to access that site and even how to work around the site. They're actually out of our financial loan section, but they know or keep up or track with all the processes. CWCB provides all the staff and technical assistance to the roundtables and the IBCC. But the projection is that by 2050, Colorato's population could double. That's another 5 million people. There's a range in that, depending on what the growth cycles are. But the high growth cycle is we could double by 2050. So how much water do we need to meet that population? It's a range from 190,000 acre feet to 630,000 acre feet of water. If you think about that, it's a lot of water. Why the range? Because there's a variance in the range of population, but importantly, there's a lot of projects that are on the drawing board. They're called identified projects and processes already, and the roundtables are coming up with additional ones that will help us meet a good share of that gap if they can come to be. But you know what happens with major water projects in Colorado. They take time, and there's risk. And so it's going to be incumbent on us to work hard to help make those happen, not only in our own basin, but working with other basins to help the state of Colorado. The latest from the IBCC here back in March, many in this room attended a statewide water summit. That was our second one. That's where the IBCC, the Colorado Water Conservation Board, and all the roundtables come together, and they were open to the public also. And we had over 300 attendees to each of the summits, one in March of 2011 and one in March of 2012. And you're seeing this come together. We actually did breakout sessions working on each of the 4 legs of the stool at this one in March, where 8 or 10 people get around the table with a facilitator and a recorder and talk in detail, share views, West Slope views, San Luis Valley views, North Park views, Arkansas views, South Platte views, on how we're going to move this forward. And out of that, you'll see in the weeks and months to come, the IBCC, with the support of the Arkansas Basin Roundtable, under the guidance of the Colorado Water Conservation Board, be working on a rather detailed path forward. How do we move forward? How can we go from the study stage, the planning stage, to actually start to implement processes and projects to promote both consumptive, non-consumptive, protection of agriculture, and water supplies in all parts of Colorado moving forward. You know, in closing, I think we have a great opportunity, and we in this room can all be part of it. We have the opportunity to join in these processes, to get involved. I know the roundtable this year is looking at having a meeting in the upper basin later in the year, and then back down in the lower basin. Generally, our meetings are at the University of Southern Colorado in Pueblo, kind of the most central spot, but our roundtable members drive 3 and 4 hours each direction on a monthly basis to get to those meetings. They're very dedicated. I think that there is urgency. Where indications are coming out of the economic downturn, and we need to be ready as a state to face growth, the opportunities for new business and industry, and we need to work on it together. Thank you.